Hey there, AP Econ students. Trying to bring an FRQ to you here today. We're looking at the 2022 micro exam, question number 3. And in this particular question, we have a setup that's going to be a demand curve, a demand schedule, rather, presented in table form. And we're going to have to work back to the demand curve. Now, before we get too far into this, I've got some helpful sort of sticky notes up here that gives some important terms we're going to need to know the definitions of, as well as a few formulas that are going to be critical to being able to unlock this particular FRQ. All right, so first thing to note is that we have over here the demand schedule. We've got prices changing, and we have 4 different individuals. We've got Emily, we've got Wu, Omar, and Fernanda, and they all have different quantities that they are demanding at different prices. And the good in question here is just labeled good X. So this is the basic definition of what a demand curve is, right? How much quantity is demanded at different prices. And you notice if we tally these all up, we're going to come across here. Let's fill this in. And we're going to add all these up. They're going to all sort of decline by 2. It's sort of helpful. 6, 4, and 2. All right, we don't actually need to calculate all those, but it is helpful to know. All right, the other thing before we get into part A here is to note that the supply is perfectly elastic. Very important to know the definition of what that is, and more important, how it shows up on a basic supply and demand graph. All right, so let's go to part A. What they want us to do here is draw the correctly labeled graph for the good, the basic supply and demand model. So let's go ahead, sketch this out. Price, quantity. We do know that the equilibrium price is going to be $5. So let's add that there. And we also know that the supply is going to be perfectly elastic at a price of $5, which means it's horizontal, right? There's essentially an infinite supply that can be purchased at that price. All right, the other thing we want to know is where this demand curve intersects at $5. So for that, we got to look back at our table calculations. So at a price of $5, we know the quantity demanded is 8. All right, and then if you want to connect all these dots, right, essentially, at a price of, $8, the quantity demanded is only 2. It's very, very small. So let's say that's right there. And at a price of, very low price of $1, we know that there are sort of 16 quantity demand. So let's put that line there. And let's connect the dots. All right, so there is our demand curve. There is our supply curve. And we've got the equilibrium price labeled. We've got the quantity also labeled with a specific calculation. That's 8. And we should be good to go there for part A. All right, part B. Price change, right? Price of good X increases from $5 to $7. And they want us to calculate the price elasticity of demand. All right, very important to know this up here. And before we get there, the price elasticity of demand, what it is, the formula. So let's draw it out over here. It is the percent change in quantity demanded over the percent change in price, right? We want to know how sensitive the quantity demanded is to a given change in price. Also, it's worth noting that this is absolute value that we look at here. All right, so let's try to fill this in. Notice when the price was $5, we know that the quantity was 8. So in terms of quantity, we went from 8, and let's go back to our chart because we know the price goes from $5 to $7, and our quantity is going to decline to 4. All right, so using this formula for percent change here, I'm going to show my work here just to be thorough, right? 4 minus 8 divided by 8. So that's negative 4 over 8. We're going to multiply that out by 100 and get a change of negative 50%. All right, so our PED in the numerator there, we've got negative 50%. All right, we still are not done. We have to calculate a percent change in price, which we know went from $5 to $7. All right, so our new price is 7 minus 5 divided by 5. Okay, so we're going to get 2 over 5, which is 0.4. We're going to multiply that by 100 and get 40%, positive 40%. So that is going to go in our denominator, our PED. Notice we don't need to worry about the negative 50% because we're looking at the absolute value. So essentially what we end up here is 5 over 4 equals 1.25. All right, so that should be our answer here for part 1 of B. Moving on to part 2, identify whether demand for good is elastic, inelastic, or unit elastic. And that's going to be this part here, right? If it's greater than 1, then we are elastic. If it were 1, then we'd be unit elastic. If it's less than 1, then we'd be inelastic. So very important to remember these sort of definitions and formulas as well to be able to answer this question confidently. All right, moving on to part C. There's an important term in here, marginal benefit, and they ask us about specifically the second unit of good X for Emily. So we're looking at Emily up here, and could it equal $4.50? And very important to understand that they ask for an explanation here, right? So what we do know about someone's demand for something, they're only going to purchase it so long as their marginal benefit is greater than or equal to the price. All right, now let's look at Emily's demand schedule. Her very first unit of good X, she demands at a price of $8. So therefore, we know for her first unit, her marginal benefit must be at least $8, if not more. All right, they ask us about our second unit. So we're going to go back this direction. And her second unit, she demands at a price of $7. All right, so the first unit at 8, the second unit when the price falls to $7. And so therefore, her marginal benefit for the second unit has to be at least equal to or greater than $7. All right, therefore, this is not $4.50. All right, so the answer here is no. It definitely can't be $4.50, and some sort of explanation there about her marginal benefit must be greater than $7 is good for an explanation there. All right, thanks for hanging with me on this FRQ, and I'll see you next time.